Good, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Morning Jumpstart. I am Jason Meyer, and today we're going to look at three. We've got color study of Susan, still going at it. Man, you're such a good worker. Love it, love it, love it. And we got Renee, who's doing her duty and volunteering on the vaccination program. So thanks, Renee. So you'll probably have to watch this later. And Katie today. So those will be the three that are up today. And we'll just have to see what we get into. And speaking of Miss Schaefer, there she is right now. Good morning, good morning, good morning. And Miss Shakti. Hi, guys. Hope you guys are well today. So, let's see. Any big announcements? So this will be the last free offering of the week. Thursday morning Jumpstart. We'll have class tomorrow morning. There'll be the last class of this month. So you get to go through, and if you have anything you'd like to say or any last questions you should get a little bit of floor time tomorrow. And what else? Then we'll start it again Sunday night with Sketch Club. So our Facebook, Meyer Studios, where we do our Sketch Club. YouTube right here, we have Morning Jumpstart and Masterworks. Morning Jumpstart is 8 a.m. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Masterworks is Monday nights at 7. All right, and of course we've got our online school and our monthly classes. So if you see something you like, or you think you might want to try your hand at it, then let's go. So I think we'll start with Susan today because our Hawaiian friend is probably still asleep, and I think Renee had to go back for vaccinations. So we'll go that way. Good morning, Janie. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Just in time for the good stuff. Just in time for the good stuff. So, this color study was used with yellow, cad yellow, alizarin, and ultramarine blue. And when I got Susan's email, you ran into exactly they're not really problems, they're more discoveries. More discoveries. So I've always tried to tell you guys, no white in the shadows, no white in the shadows, no white in the shadows. Well, in a limited palette with, I think she's using cad yellow medium and alizarin crimson and ultramarine blue, the only way you can lighten that blue without changing it to green or keeping it dark at purple with alizarin is for a little bit of white. Okay, and then I noticed you said when you added the yellow, it just got too light too fast. Sometimes it's the yellow and the white. If you think back to your limited palette that you worked on this, what would happen? Well, you've got cad yellow medium, but it's still pretty light. So you could group your white and your cad yellow medium together, and what do you have there? Well, you have a cool light value and a cool warm value. So you can lighten it in a cool direction, and you can lighten things in a warm direction with the cad yellow. Now with the cad yellow, it'll change the color. It'll take the alizarin towards the orange, and it'll take the ultramarine towards the green. Okay? But getting in there and seeing, and what you realize is it really is a matter of relationships. Okay, and I think that's the quickest way to really find that is in these very, very limited palettes. Now, with that being said, unfortunately, Susan also said, after she's done these color studies, she's more confused. Oof, that's not a good place to be. Miss Cindy, there's my sweetie. There's my sweetie taking care of everything. Thanks, babe. Okay, so the top one here was yesterday's, and I believe that was the ultramarine with the burnt umber, the yellow ochre, and cad orange, if I remember right. And then down below is the triad. And even though that we may not be exactly happy where these are right now, I think this is a relatively good indication of what those two palettes can offer you. Right, so if we divide like this, what do you have? Well, here is going to be more harmonious, a little quieter. You remember how you said you wanted peaceful? Do you remember that word? Well, that's what I'm going to think about. And more harmonious, you know, not always, but sometimes it's a little more peaceful too. The triad, do you see it's a little punchier? There's a little more distance between this and this and this. And on this one, we're held basically more in a straight line across the color wheel. Okay? So now you have to decide, because you know what you want in your head. But where this gets difficult, is we've got conflict now. We've got conflict. Because we look at these colors and say, man, those are better colors. Well, what do we mean when we say better color? Going deep today, I know, I jumped right off into the deep end. But we're dealing with Susan. That's where we got to go with Susan. So in one sense, now it depends who you're talking to, but with most lay people and most people starting out, when they say better color, what they're referring to is more pop, identifiable colors. Okay, and that pop doesn't really equal peaceful. Okay, and this may sound a little, why is he going on and why is he going on? Why is he going on? Why is he going on about this? Because you've got to learn what the consequences of your decision are. Because if you start and you're telling me you want a peaceful painting, but then at every step in this process you choose the less peaceful option, well, one, you either mislabeled what you were trying to do, or you changed your mind, or you're just unaware of those subtle things that each of these color schemes say. Do you guys see that? Do you see the peaceful versus the pop? So just breathe that in. Right? And the other thing you want to do, if you're really looking at this, block out everything else in your vision. the rest of the screen, anything in the background, any lights, especially white walls or anything light, and get to where the only thing in your field of vision is that painting. Okay, now let's do the same thing with this one. Again, what we're doing here is just like we did on Masterworks, except in Masterworks, we went extreme. We went from really cool to really warm, cool to warm, cool to warm. And we talked about we really don't see color in the end, but we feel it. We feel color. So after we do these color studies, we want to take the time to feel the difference. And then we want to decide what color scheme we want to use based on the feeling we're going for. So I would like to draw your attention right there. So as I blow that up, do you see kind of how nice and quiet and kind of abstract that becomes? And now here, it's still abstract, but it's louder. It's louder. There's more going on. The neighbors have their music up. It's coming through the walls. Hey, maybe you dig it. Maybe you're going to walk right over there and have a margarita with them. I don't know. That might be your thing. Right? And if so, this is the right neighborhood for you. But if you go, hey, man, turn that down. Turn that down. I'm trying to read a book and meditate and contemplate over here. Well, then this is the neighborhood for you. All right. Let's see what we got going on here. Let's see what we got going on here. Yeah. Sings more. I think that's what you're going in the triad. Right. There you go, right underneath there. Oh no, Susan. Oh no. I like them both. Well, you know, that's right there. Right there. That is where the artist earns their money. Because the artist is brutal and ruthless. Brutal and ruthless in the sense of we're going for one and we're going to forget the other. Or we're going for one and we're going to forget the other. Right? This isn't the kind of well, let's break up but stay friends. No. You know, now if you want to do a whole series and explore the different color schemes in this, go for it. And I think, man, that's going to be invaluable for where you're at right now, Susan. But you've got to have the interest. I would actually like to really get together with you and do some color mixing. Do some color mixing. I wonder if we could, Shakti says she's got a nice patio down in Shell Beach. I wonder on a nice day if we could get out there and do some color mixing. Right? Outside with some mask maybe or something. I don't know. But you're already stepping into the lessons I wanted you to learn. And part of being an artist is practicing deciding. Right? And you guys will probably remember a few times ago that I keep saying you've got to develop your taste. Right? Because hate And love is on a spectrum. It's on a big spectrum. This is here, we need to get nuclear weapons and kill this thing right now because it's evil and it's going to eat the world and destroy our children and yada, 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 yada. This right here is we're sitting in the white light and everything is love and great and great and great. That's easy. That's easy. But when we get here in the middle, so you have to refine your taste to know whether you like something this much or this much. Whether you dislike something this much or this much. Because art is about decisions. Right? And that doesn't seem like a big deal. But kind of with every 6 inches the artist moves, there's like millions, billions of possibilities. And if you can discern what you like even just a little bit better, when we multiply that by that millions of decisions we have to make, this little gap each time grows to become an incredible painting. But if you're not sure and you choose this, well, then at best we're heading towards mediocre. Because remember, this isn't one decision. You've got to multiply this by 1,000,000. At every millisecond, as an artist, you're making decisions on the pressure, on the pressure of the brush, the amount, the edge, the softness, the gradient, the step. I mean, so many decisions, most people don't even realize they're making 99.9% of them. Okay, so I know it's hard, and I know this is not what you want to hear because you've got a freaking grand prize painting sitting right there in your studio just begging to be finished. And this is what marks the hobbyist from the masters. The masters will sit down, spend a morning, spend an afternoon, spend a late night. Oh my God, it's been 3.5 weeks. Yeah, but you know, all said and considered, I want to go that direction. That knowledge right there of which direction you prefer to go in, that's worth years of study. That's worth hundreds of paintings. Because that's a decision that you can use over and over and over again in every stroke you make. Right? To get you closer to the look you want. Now, I'm going to do something a little funky here. All right, let's do something a little funky to just shake things up. Shake things up. Let's see, what's the brightest painting I can find here? Okay, here's a couple. Right, so, oh wow, yeah, look at that. But, what if that was what you were going for? This is that cityscape. This is that still life. And I'm not saying you can't paint both ways, but I am saying you can't paint both ways on the same painting. So at least for this painting, you have to decide what direction. Okay? So again, you're doing great here. And these are hard choices, but the better you get as an artist, again, the harder the choices become, because you're making choices based on kind of finer and finer and finer relationships. All right, here we go. Let's see. I like them both. Oh, I'm thinking you're talking of me inviting us all over to Shakti's. Well, all right. Well, she didn't hang up on us. She didn't hang up on us. That's a good thing. All right. Yeah. And Susan, I did this for a long time. Now, I wouldn't do big paintings, but I would do paintings both ways of the same subject. Right? This is where doing the same thing over and over and over can be super informative for you. But remember, there's only so much discipline you can apply. You do need to apply a little bit of it, but you need to stay inspired and motivated. Right? So I encourage you to do as much as your inspiration and motivation will allow. And if it runs out, you know what? It's going to come back again at some other point. Right? At some point, you know, not you because you're an animal guru, but for the rest of us, some of us would go, you know what? I'm really into these fish. I need to know exactly how that lip attaches right here. Then you're going to go looking into a book and you're going to look up fish anatomy and you're going to learn a couple of muscles and some bone structure. Boom, and you're going to remember it. But for most of us, if we went through just trying to remember every bone and every muscle in every kind of different fish, it's not going to be of much effect for us, right? In other words, when you really get curious about it, you'll have to know, you'll go find out. And so with those two things of staying inspired and stopping and digging a little bit, right, with that combination, that's how you're going to carry forward as an artist. All right, my friend. All right, my friend, I will do it. I know you will, because you always do. You always do. And I hope you're understanding the insights you're getting. And I like to keep these around my studio because, quite frankly, we usually don't understand what we've done until we see it usually several months or maybe even years later. Right? The implication of all of this will become clearer and clearer to you with experience. And that's why it's a good idea just to let some things like this hang in your studio. Right? Let those differences seep in. As you're driving into town, Susan, and you notice, oh, the landscape's really bright. Oh, I love this. Oh, look at this quiet light. You know, I think I actually like this a little bit more than that bright light. Or, no, this is nice and relaxing, but man, that just gets me jazzed. That's what I want to do. That might change from painting to painting, from season to season, or year to year. But the important thing is that you're consciously making that decision. All right, my friend, let's go on. Susan, you're awesome. You're awesome. You're awesome. You're awesome. Keep going. I know it's hard making these decisions ourselves. It's hard. It's like, can't you just tell me? Can't you just tell me what to do? I've been there. I know. And no, nobody can tell you. That's the thing. This is truth. Truth is a pathless land. Truth and beauty are the same thing. Beauty, it's a pathless land. Miss Katie, another one of our volunteers getting the vaccinations done for everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And on top of it, new grandkids, visiting kids, and she's painting. This is coming along really nice. All right, so Katie's another good one. You know, with the time she has, she's really, you know, everybody is. With the time they're really doing it. So I'm going to stop here a second, and I want to talk about a few things. Okay, and let's just kind of forget about this. Let's forget about this thing right here. And let's just talk about this. What the? Well, what do we have here? What we have is we have a two-dimensional object. And that two-dimensional object has height and it has width. So one way you can think about getting across here is, how do you move across the painting? In other words, there's a read from left to right. Right? So what I mean by that is there needs to be some pattern happening as you travel left to right. Right? The only way the viewer is going to see is if there is a difference from here to here to here and finally to here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 fields we go through. So we've taken the viewer through a journey. Do you see that? Now as these goes away, there's no journey to be had. Okay? The same can be said for this. Top to bottom. Right? Unless there is a pattern right? You're not giving an experience to the viewer. Or if you are, it's too much for them to do. So we've got 1 at the bottom, 2 above that, 3 for this light here in the middle, 4, and then 5. You see we got 5 steps across there. So if we take this idea, by the way, what you have is a top to bottom design. So if we take this step one further, to make things seem like they're going into space, this is going to be bigger, our front step, because this is closer to us. Things that are closer appear bigger. So creeks and rocks and stuff, they're going to be bigger right here. And you know what else is going to be big? Anything right up here. So this is going to be trees and foliage and things like that right in our face. And then as we go back in the treetops, our next one is going to be a little bit smaller. Our next field. And as we go along the ground here, that'll be a little bit smaller. Smaller than those feet, right? And then as we go along the ground again, we're going to get even smaller. Right? Do you guys know what I mean when I say smaller? So that is large, and that is large, that's foreground. Then as we go back into space, we get smaller. As we go back into space from the top, it gets smaller. As we go back in the space on the bottom, it gets smaller again. As we go back in space here, it'll get smaller yet. And then we're going to just have this gray stuff where that meets. So do you guys see? We're literally going let's go large, big, medium, small. Large, big, medium, small. And that's going to make the viewer seem like this space like we're going back into space, right? We're going way back there, and that's so far away from here. And even though this and this on opposite ends, this is the ground beneath our feet, and these are the tree leaves right in our face. Okay? Can you guys understand a flat surface like that and understand how that patterning then can create a three-dimensional illusion? Okay? So now if we think about this, what's wrong with that is it kind of flattens all those areas out. So what would be better to do is, let's say this is near, this is middle, and that is far. Then up close, we talk about things being a little darker, richer. So what I'll do is I'll come over here with whatever colors, and we're going to have a warm, darker, richer, warmer. And then so my creek water color might be like this. Now again, we're working from big pieces to small pieces, but you've got to know the order of the big pieces in order to get the small pieces right. Then as we travel back in space, what happens? We get lighter, grayer, and cooler. And then we could ask ourselves, is that enough of a change? Maybe we need more, I don't know. But that's a question of measure, okay? Of how much or how little. And lighter, grayer, cooler steel would, oops, something went horribly wrong there. Something went horribly, so let's start again here. What were we doing? We're going lighter, grayer, cooler. Okay, so now we say creek, but we also say foreground, picture plane foreground, picture plane middle ground, and then picture plane background. Okay. And that is just a completely different problem, dividing it up in those three ways. So that's a completely different problem, right? That's one problem we have to contend with. Then the other problem is that shape, right? How can we get a better, more interesting shape? You know, and I know this is a quiet little stream. I know this is a quiet little stream, but why couldn't this water be large here? Maybe there's even a rock that comes up there. And then this next one, maybe we'll take it over to here. Right? Do you see how instead of just stacking one on top of the other on top of the other, by giving a little movement to it, that's immediately going to add interest and be a more interesting shape. Okay, so let's just ask ourselves, let's just take everything you have here and don't even worry about the color or anything. But what if we just change the shape of what you do have here? Let's go a little bit lighter so we can see that. And see how that's a bit more interesting, more dynamic. It'll move you through and back into the work. Yeah, it's coming along really nicely, Katie. It really is. I know this is a little bit of a tough love here, but it's these things that will make your paintings come to life. Just a few moments. Just a few moments. Look at her. She's in and out. The world opens up. And Claudia's back in her roadster. Back in her roadster. Down the road. All right. Be safe, Claudia. Have a good time. Have fun. And then one of the other things I was trying to say is, so now we've got a movement. This moves us. This moves us through this canvas like that. But then that movement stops right there. So if we put that white trunk way down here, now we've got to come back here and start again. But if instead whatever caught our eye didn't catch to right here, well, how could we do that? Well, we could have foliage in shadow. We could have trunk in shadow. So this would be shadow, and then we wouldn't light it up to right there. So then our light Now, whoops, this isn't going to show. We need something that'll show. Now our light will go from here to here, and then when it gets here, guess what it's going to do? It's going to, oops, forgot to turn that off from class last night. It's going to take us up to there. And then if I had some light on limbs and stuff, I would put those right there. And then we could come down some trees right here. And then we'll come back here and circle around. Okay? So what that means, what is the meaning of it all? What is the meaning of it all? So then if we pretended, okay, let's have some light tree stems and stuff going here. It's a bigger trunk, a little light on it. Got some offshoots. We've got some leaves and foliage right here, and then we've got some other little trees and stuff back in here catching some light, and then maybe on the ground. So what that means, if that's our light, then that's our river. That's our river. Remember us talking about our river? And we got to have our river held if we want it to show up. If we want it to show up, and since that's gray, that color is going to be too much for it. So let's just do a darker. There we go. So a lot of painting, believe it or not, is actually taking out, and this is what I consider I'm doing right now, I'm taking out what's not on the path of my light. And this would be done, with darks and grays and things like that. But we've got to remember we're going back into space. We need a differing pattern as we go back into space. But you see, as I get this all in here, the question is once this is done, is this design any good? Right? Are these marks running across this canvas, are they interesting? So all I'm doing is, okay, I'm seeing my decision through, because when I decided on the light, on the river, on the eye path, that also tells me where the dark, where the banks, the grays have to be. Okay, so do you see? And this even feels more like that dark creek going around there. And that creek may go through light and shadow. There may be shadowy parts on that creek. And then it'll get to meander a little bit more. Okay, so I hope that makes sense, Katie. I hope that makes sense. I know you and I haven't got to connect a lot, so I'm still trying to fill out exactly your experience level. But when you look at this as a pattern, not as what you have, but just as a color and a value pattern, right? What do we have? What do we have? If we took this and we edited it out, and we go down to, where's our saturation? Our saturation, we take all the saturation out of it, then we get black and white. And then here, send this to Procreate before we can do that. Can't do all the things I want to do in every program I want to do it. So Okay, you see this pattern, what we see when we go small, it's almost straight down the middle and a straight line right there. Can you see that? And then it's a little spotty and fuzzy too. You're close, Katie. I mean, I can feel these structures. So I hope those couple little tips I gave you today will show you how you can really get a hold of this thing. How you can really get a hold of this thing. All right, so you see how that's a little bit more of a dynamic, more interesting pattern. And then what if I wanted more light? What if I needed more light in here? Well, the key is to always work from a light you already have. So in other words, am I going to jump off of this? Am I going to pull this way? Am I going to slow this down this way a little bit? I can pull it. But what I don't want to do is start going down here and or starting over here and going in here. And you see, every time I make a light that's not connected or reinforcing my movement, it weakens my movement. It weakens my sinks. Right, see, as I take away those distractions, that gets clearer. Okay. All right. See what else we got here. So good job, Katie. Keep going. But it is about really developing these patterns and seeing this pattern and even putting them on these very, very complex subjects like you're doing right now. Very complex subjects. All right, Miss Reenie didn't work as much as she wanted because she was volunteering, but she said she hates her sky holes. She says she hates her sky holes. So your name is now Reenie the Sky Hole Hater. Reenie the Sky Hole Hater. No, we can't do that. Maybe we can, I don't know. So those are in the places where I asked you to put them, but are they all equal size? Yeah. And really they're pretty similar shapes. I know this used to drive me crazy. I would take, wouldn't get to see the teacher for a month or 2 weeks. I'd take it in. Says, I thought I told you to give good right? I spent freaking hours doing this and that. What do you mean that is different than that? What are you talking? Well, it's different, but the nature of it is the same. Like I said, this stuff is deep. This stuff is deep. So Reenie, my friend Reenie the Sky Hole Hater. What would happen if we had a big dominant sky hole here, right? Maybe a little bit of a less of a sky hole there. And then I think what would be effective, Reenie, okay, now look at what's happening. I'm going up, I'm going down. Do you guys see that pattern? That is too equal. Too equal. Right? That's what fence builders do. That's what fence builders do. We're not fence builders, we're artists. Why is it equal? Well, this is about the same as that. Well, what am I supposed to do? Well, come up with something different. Come up with something different. So again, if we don't, painting is a matter of a bunch of stuff put together, many steps. And the thing is at each step, just like we were talking with Susan earlier, the decisions we make and a little bit better at every step equals a lot better painting. So for me, this is going to be a much more interesting shape, something like this. And then, did you notice that all of your tree limbs were the same size? So what if we get a trunk that's bigger, right? And then maybe a little branch that goes off, and then maybe we can go off in this way. You know, who knows? Maybe there's even another trunk, you know, split from the base of the trunk going off that way. Now, let's talk about that sky hole now. Do you know what I mean? And then the other thing is that our measures for our color got off. Instead of yellow back there, it's like we just got kind of pure white. So man, I keep hitting something. What am I doing here? Am I dragging my thing through history? What is happening? What is happening? So what I want to do here, I want to go lighter, grayer, and that should be it right there. Okay, so something like that. Remember, that's another tree over there. I'm going to just keep this at whatever level it is. We're going to keep those levels going. That's grass, that's grass, that's grass. And then make sure your edges say, tree leaves or tree branch. Okay, and then from here, if we went further back to, say, this, then that would be the next layer, right? So on all of these, for whatever height that is, again, it's not straight lines, but it's trees. Okay. And then, you know, the sky would go up there, right? So I might have got eaten away a little bit much, but you've got the right idea, but I want you to take another swing at it, okay? Take another swing at it, and whenever you have something like this, right, if you think that there's something like a tree trunk, that it's like this, I want to highly suggest that you paint it like this. You see how I'm working across? Not down or along. So instead of working along here, and what's going to happen, you know, I can even do this. Again, you're going to end up with better shapes, more organic shapes. Okay, so let's end, look at that, 8:55, woohoo! Let's end with some sky hole examples. Some sky hole examples. Let's see. Let me see if we can find some good sky holes. Where are all my landscape painters at? Where are all my landscape painters at? So what I want you to notice is, look, whereas against the bark, yeah, we've got the, but do you see the edge of these shapes? And that's what I mean. It's got to read as leaves. Now we don't have to get this detailed, but again, do you see the large variety of shapes and sizes in here? Okay, so we want our sky holes to have a little bit more of that. A little bit more of that. Where else we got some good sky holes? This is a Shishkin. Does he have a sky hole or two? Again, even if we simplify, do you see? It's interesting. So there's big and then small. All right, do you see? But there's always variety. Always variety. And then usually it's important for like for some airiness. Right? We have to make sure that birds can fly through our sky holes. That there's room for the birds to go in there and land. See if I have any more fuller trees. See if we have any more fuller trees. This is a little bit different, but you can see that. But so much of it is the edge. Right? The edge. Okay. What we're talking about, it took me forever. It took me forever. But without this right here, this is just a big, right? And without that walking off of the edge of that light eating away at that, this isn't much of a painting. But with it, I don't know, guys. I don't know. Not too bad, huh? Not too bad. All right, look at that 859. So that must tell me that that is enough of that. A Tim Allen Lawson here. Boom. Hard to ever go wrong looking at him. Look at those sky hole shapes. Okay? So you know what Grandpa used to say? You know what Grandpa used to say? Yep, that's right. Watch your sky hole. Watch your sky hole. So with that word of wisdom right there, I think we will call it a week for our free programs. I hope you all got something out of this. I hope you take it, use it, and make it your own. Make it your own, right? So let's push forward. How beautiful can we be? How beautiful can we be? How beautiful can we make it? Until next time, I'm Jason Meyer, and we'll be back Sunday night on Facebook for a live Sketch Club Live. And then we'll be Monday night on YouTube for our Masterworks. We'll see you guys then. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.